Hello, this is King Echo, the King of Ambazonia, the Pan-African King, the spiritual leader speaking. This message is directly to French Africa, those who call themselves French Africa. French Africa, you need to wake up. Wake up and see reality for what it is. Stop living in illusion, dreams, maybe nightmares, and come to reality. Look at what is happening in France, the capital of French Africa. And when I talk about French Africa, I talk about La République du Cameroon, Chad, Niger, you name it. It's so many. There are 14 countries of French Africa. French Africa. Take up to the citizens, not to the politicians and the elites, to the citizens who are the backbone of French Africa, who suffer for the benefit of France and the elites of French Africa. Take a lesson to France. Look at what France has done to those elites, those ruling class, those in power. It's time for French Africa to wake up and understand that nothing will change in Chad. Nothing will change in Central Africa. Nothing will change in Togo. Togo is an example. They also have taken to the street, and I hope they keep the spirit, the fighting spirit, the warrior spirit. French Africa, King Echu, the Pan-African King, the spiritual leader is speaking. And if you like what I'm talking about, share and share and share to your social media. French Africa, listen to the voice of reason. It's time for you to pass this torch. Take this torch that has been lit by France, by the citizens of France, ordinary citizens of France, who have decided to march on the street and burn down offices, government offices, destroy, create chaos based on what it's been done to them by the elites, those in power in France. French Africa, only you can free yourself. Only you can free yourself from this nightmare or dream. Only you can free yourself. And it's not a good dream, so it's literally not a good dream for French African nations. 14 nations, including La République Cameroon. No, La République Cameroon did not eat bread, but what was it? Bread and sardine. It's time for La République Cameroon to wake up, start destroying the offices in Douala and Yaoundé. Create havoc just like the citizens of France have done. It's time to push. You want freedom. Freedom will never be given to you, French Africa. You must take it. And I'm talking to the ordinary citizens of French Africa. French Africa. The time is now. You are sleeping and you're letting Africa rotten. Because if you look at the world, how does the world treat the black man? How does the Jews treat the black man? The Jews say they have been persecuted, but how do they treat black people all over the world? The Muslims say they have been persecuted, but how do they treat black people? French Africa. It doesn't matter if you speak French, English, whatever language that you speak, so long as you're African, so long as you're black, because there are some Africans who are not black. There's some Africans who are Arabs. So their own treatment is is excluded from the black Africans. The black Africans suffer the most wherever they go. The most. They're treated as dogs, as below dogs. What am I talking about? Below dogs. Look at what is happening in India when it comes to the black people. Look at what is happening in blacks when they go to Arab states. Look at French Africa. It's time for you to wake up. Don't let this touch that has been lit by the citizens of France go by you or pass by you. Don't let it. It's time for you to take that torch and say, no, it's time for the French Africans to react to their situation. Because whatever is happening is not normal. It is abnormal. And in order to treat things that are abnormal, you must interact abnormally. You know what I'm saying? It's time to take to the streets, my brother, just like Togo has been doing. I hope they continue with the fight until they kick that motherfucker out from presidency who's been there. And understand that France does not give a fuck about French Africa. France gives a fuck about the resources that they can benefit from French Africa. France does not give a damn about Africa. France gives a damn about the resources in Africa, in French Africa, in all over Africa. So it is time for the citizens, and I don't want to just make this, well, I should just keep it to French Africa. And there are other African nations who come after later because they also have their own nonsense that they need to iron out. It's time for Africa, black people all over the world, to wake up. Understand that we must create a powerhouse called the Global Pan-African Parliament. We have now an African Parliament, a Pan-African Parliament, but that's not enough. We need a global Pan-African Parliament where the leaders of all, that includes black people from black nations all over the world, will interact. That is the next chapter that we Africans, black people, must do. This is what Marcus Garvey started. And we must finish what the great Marcus Garvey did. I see the great Marcus Garvey as a god in Pan-Africanism. He's one of the great ancestors. When you have passed on to the other side as a great leader, as Marcus Garvey, you now consider a god. So we must follow the great leader, Marcus Garvey, and make sure that the Pan-African Parliament, a global Pan-African Parliament, must be initiated. Enough for this UN, enough for this other European Union. They are not for Africa, but for themselves, for their interests. And you can see how Britain has actually split from Europe to create this a commonwealth so that they will benefit from it. Because when they put all the countries that are commonwealth countries, it is more beneficial to be with the commonwealth country than with the European countries. That is why they're exiting out from the European Parliament. So Africa and Africans all over the world, black people. It's time for us. It's time. It's been time. We've been sleeping for so long. French Africans, wake up. Wake up. It's time for us to create a global Pan-African parliament. That is a government system for black people, by black people. This is King Eju, the Pan-African King. Share my message if you like what I'm talking about.